Welcome to the TokyoBill Weekly. Stories from Japan, told from Japan. This week, why August is the season of ghosts in Japan, and why Japanese ghosts are nothing like the ones you grew up with. It is August in Japan, which means three things are happening simultaneously. The heat is extraordinary. We covered that a few weeks ago. Obon is underway, the season when the spirits of the dead return to visit the living. We covered that last week. And all across the country, in the evenings, people are getting bombarded by ghost stories. This last tradition has a name, kaidan, and it is older, stranger, and more interesting than it might first appear. If you have ever watched a Japanese horror film and felt that it worked differently from the horror you were used to, that the dread came from somewhere unexpected, and that the ending left something unresolved in a way that stayed with you, kaidan is the reason. And to understand kaidan, you have to start with a game. During the Edo period, roughly the 17th and 18th centuries, a gathering called Hyakumono Gatori Kaidan-kai became popular among all levels of Japanese society. The name translates as a gathering of 100 ghost stories. 100 candles were lit in a room. Participants took turns telling ghost stories. After each story, one candle was extinguished. As the gathering continued, the room grew darker, the atmosphere heavier. After the final candle was blown out, after the 100th story had been told in complete darkness, something might appear. Whether anyone truly believed that or simply enjoyed the pleasure of frightening themselves in company, the effect was the same. It is, as a designed experience, almost perfect. This tradition of summer ghost stories has two roots. The practical one first. In the pre-air conditioning era, a story frightening enough to raise goosebumps was a story frightening enough to make you feel, momentarily, cooler. Fear as a cooling mechanism. The spiritual root goes deeper. August is Obon, the season when the membrane between the living and the dead is considered permeable. In that atmosphere, a ghost story is not merely entertainment. It fits the moment the way fireworks fit a summer festival. The dead are already close. The stories simply acknowledge that. The classic kaidan, the stories that have been told and retold for 3 centuries, reveal something important about how Japan thinks about ghosts, death, and justice. Japan has 3 great kaidan. The first and most famous is Yotsuya Kaidan. A ronin named Iemon poisons his devoted wife Oiwa with a disfiguring cream, arranges her murder, and moves on to a wealthier woman. Oiwa does not rest. Her ghost returns, inhabiting the spaces around Iemon, his lanterns, his curtains, his sleep, until he is driven to murder everyone around him and finally destroyed. First performed as a kabuki play in 1825, it has been adapted into films, television dramas, and manga ever since. Actors who perform Yotsuya Kaidan traditionally visit Oiwa's shrine in Tokyo's Yotsuya district before the production begins, to ask her permission and blessing. The shrine is still there. People still visit. The second is Bancho Saruyashiki, the dish mansion at Bancho. A servant named Okiku repeatedly refuses the advances of her samurai master Aoyama. In revenge, he hides one of 10 precious family plates and accuses her of losing it. Knowing the charge is false and the penalty death, Okiko counts the plates over and over, 1 through 9, and then breaks into anguished wailing at the missing 10th. Aoyama throws her into a well. Each night her ghost rises and counts again, 1 through 9, then the wail, until Aoyama is driven to madness. Okiku's well can still be visited at Himeji Castle today. The third is Botan Doro, the peony lantern. A lonely man falls in love with a beautiful woman who visits him each night. A neighbor notices that the woman and her servant walk like skeletons. Because they are. The woman has been dead since before he met her. She returns night after night, drawn by an attachment she cannot release, until the man's longing for her outweighs his fear. 3 stories, 3 ghosts, and running through all of them, a logic that is distinctly Japanese and quite different from the ghost story traditions most Western listeners will have grown up with. Koji Suzuki, the author of the novel that became the film Ringu, put it plainly. In American and European horror, the story is about the extermination of evil spirits. You identify the threat, you confront it, you defeat it, and it is over. Japanese horror ends with a suggestion that the spirit still remains, because the Japanese do not regard spirits only as enemies, but as beings that coexist with this world. The ghost in a kaidan is not a monster. She is, in the language of one scholar of Japanese horror, a creditor. She is owed something: acknowledgement, justice, peace, and she will not leave until the debt is paid. In Yotsuya Kaidan, Iemon owes Oiwa her life and her dignity. In Bancho Sariyashiki, Aoyama owes Okiku her reputation and her future. In Botan Doro, the debt is simply the unresolved weight of love and loss, which turns out to be enough. This is why Ring works the way it does. Sadako, the ghost who crawls from the television screen, is unmistakably a kaidan figure. Long black hair, white garments, origin in a well. She is Okiku and Oiwa updated for the age of videotape. She's not evil in the Western sense. She is wronged, and she will not stop. That ending, which Western audiences often found ambiguous or bleak, is the most culturally coherent ending possible. The debt is not repaid. The spirit remains. It is kaidan logic applied with total consistency. The same framework runs through Ju-on, through Dark Water, through the entire tradition of Japanese horror cinema that reshaped horror filmmaking globally in the 1990s. Hollywood remade these films and in almost every case softened or resolved the ending because Western audiences expected a conclusion. The Japanese originals do not offer one. They offer coexistence with the unresolved, which is, it turns out, considerably more frightening. August in Japan is the season when this tradition comes closest to the surface. Television stations run horror specials. Summer festivals feature haunted houses. The Hyaku Monogatari gathering is not commonly practiced in its original form, but the impulse behind it remains: gathering in the dark, telling stories that make the heat feel less suffocating and the presence of the dead feel somehow companionable. The dead are already close during Obon. The ghost stories simply make room for that fact. And in a country where spirits are not enemies to be defeated, but presences to be acknowledged, a ghost story is not quite the same thing as it is elsewhere. It is closer to a conversation with the dark, with the season, with the particular quality of an August night in Japan when the air is thick and the candles are going out, one by one. That's the Tokyo Bill Weekly for August 15th, 2026. I've been, and remain, Tokyo Bill. Thank you for listening, and take care.